All right, let the games begin or not. Now, I'm talking about the bids for the 2024 Summer Olympic Games, and Boston is exploring the bid, but so many people are complaining in Boston and the surrounding areas that organizers say they're willing to have a statewide referendum to see whether or not only Bostonians, but also Massachusetts folks even want these games to be in Beantown. And it got us thinking this morning about whether it's effective to let ordinary, regular folk like us make these calls when it comes to ballot initiatives. You want a couple examples? Voters in several states voted against same-sex marriage only to have the courts reverse those decisions, and look at the polls now. Referendums did not work out well in those particular cases. But when it comes to marijuana, voters ahead of the national curve. They voted to legalize pot in several states, a position favored by the majority of people, again, in most recent polls. But, I'll start with you, Jess, in that everybody agrees we have huge infrastructure problems. But if you ask somebody to vote here that it's going to cost you extra money, right? They're going to have to write more in taxes to pay for a new bridge. They're going to keep saying no until the bridge collapses. Yeah. Are referendums a good idea, or are they a cop-out by lawmakers to say to the public, you decide? We're electing people for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, look, I tend to come down on the side of letting people decide and control their government, but sometimes you end up with stuff that's not that popular, and it's great for people like me in business because a lot of times you get hired to push one agenda or another. But, I didn't get a chance. I have a lot of family in Boston. I didn't get a chance to survey them on this. But, something like the Olympics, there's so many factors that go into that implicate what that would mean to bring them there that the average person probably isn't thinking about.
No idea.
So,
no idea.
It might not be, this might not be the best thing to put
to
up
me,
for a ballot.
Andrew, it's the, I call the vegetables part of this, where everybody wants to eat the dessert, okay? But there's some stuff that we don't want to do. Infrastructure, I think, is a perfect example. Well, you got to do. The roads can't crumble. It will affect commerce, safety. A bridge will collapse if you don't fix it every so often. The point is, if you tell everybody you can pay less taxes and take a chance on the bridge or not, we know human nature.
But this isn't designed to replace legislatures. I mean, you still need lawmakers doing their jobs, and hopefully funding infrastructure and keeping things moving would be one of the priorities. But look at some of the other issues.
How about governors? You like what they do in California? You can do a recall whenever you want?
Actually, I don't particularly like recall elections, but it is an aspect of the referendum process. But look at some of the issues in New York that we just went through Moreland and this whole debate about ethics, and we got almost no ethics reform in the budget deal. If you put a comprehensive ethics package on a referendum, a voter-generated referendum, I think it would pass. Or MMA fighting, which still hasn't made it through Albany, or any of another host of issues, reforming the Port Authority. You put those to voters, and I think you would get movement in a way that you haven't gotten from lawmakers already. There's a difference, though. New Jersey, when they did sports betting, that was a legislative-sponsored referendum. The legislature said, we're going to put this on the ballot, and voters voted for it. States like California, the voters come up with what goes on the ballot, and those are the issues that they can work very well, they can work terribly, but I find very compelling. And it gives people more of a say.
You've seen them come and go, Dom. If you had to pick or choose, you like the idea of referendums?
Referendums are okay, but elected officials should make the decisions. I mean, and here's my case in point, as Boston considers whether to make a bid for the Olympics. Downtown Brooklyn, I heard for almost 20 years why it was awful to build a stadium. It would be the worst thing in the world. Where are those critics now? Yeah. Where are they at now? As Hillary's coming to Brooklyn, the stadium, where are they at now?
Well,
but
in
if
New
you
York,
put on the
you
ballot,
have
you might
to.
have had that arena 20 years ago.
New York, it's an onerous process because the legislature has to vote for it not only once but twice, and then it goes to the public. So
hey, you could always write one of those like Andrew Cuomo did. If you are for business and like human beings, yes or no. All right. Coming up next, with the Patriot Act set to expire, Edward Snowden, he's on a lot of people's minds. His interview with John Oliver, HBO, could, or maybe not, change your mind about how you feel about this whistleblower. Stay with us.